All right, peeps, welcome to the Culture and People Cast. Today we have Yubi. Yubi, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
For sure. So my name is Ciminieri. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Evangelist, really, for a company called Interview IA. We are really trying to help organizations, especially now with things changing because of COVID and all these discussions around systemic inequalities and things like that. How do we help companies create a better, more inclusive and equitable candidate experience using bias training and using technology? And that's what we're out there doing right now.
Awesome. Yeah. And you and I had a chance to connect before this call. We started recording, and I feel like what you're doing around the elevation of the conversation around the art of interviewing, it's such an important thing because people always talk about on the back end, they're just not a culture fit. Like we just found out, well, we could do a better job of preparing internally first to even understand what or how this role, let alone the person, fits into the organization, and then do an even better job in bringing the right person along and hiring them.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely, it's, we can be better, right? We can train ourselves to be better in the interview process instead of relying on AI and other tech to replace us. We can be better. We just have to train a little bit, right? And to your point, we can figure out like who are the right people for our company, right? It's not about culture fit. It's not about finding people to assimilate in. It's about really evaluating people for the right things. Who cares where they went to school necessarily, right? Unless there's a business reason for that, or who cares what kind of handshake they have, right? That's how a lot of people get hired. And it's more about like, do they have the ability to do the job? And do they align with, the company's goals and mission and vision and values? But also like, do they have the ability to grow here with us? Like, what's their growth potential in this role and in the organization? Like, let's look at those things.
Yeah. And it's such big work because it's so connected, right? The way we bring in, the way we attract, retain, engage, develop, it's all very connected. But for you, having working in the space for a little while now, what's the best thing about influencing people and culture?
I mean, the best thing is to see when you've been able to make that connection or to help an organization really find people who then can find truly meaningful work within their organization. But not only that, in a place where they absolutely feel like they can be seen, valued, and heard. We want people to unleash, and we want them to do exactly what they want to do, something that's meaningful and passionate to them. And that's the best thing about it, is when you make those matches, is when you help companies figure that out, then it's easy. Then it's easy to find the right people.
I agree. I agree. I love that. Seen, value, and heard. Oh, and that doesn't happen enough. One of my favorite keynotes to give, the title of the talk is Own Your Career, right? Reclaim your time, talents, and your voice. Because as much as I think organizations need to do better to provide the ecosystem, I do believe individual humans need to increase their own self-awareness about how they can actually add value, because then there's more of a chance that a space for them in their shape is truly going to get created.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the big piece, though, is kind of going back on the organizations, is a lot of people, even when they have that confidence, right, and they have that true understanding of, okay, this is who I am and this is what I want to do, what ends up happening is there are a lot of like policies and procedures and systemic things that are in place that keep them from ever showing that. And that's really, I think, the point we're trying to solve is we've got to give everybody a chance. And up until now, because of biases, like we haven't given every single candidate the equal opportunity to prove themselves and to show that they're going to be successful in our organization. And so that's really the key piece that I think has been missing. But yeah, it's a two-way street, always.
Yeah. And I'm hearing from other leaders, both before COVID, but certainly now too, that engaging their talent is a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think, a lot of that kind of goes back to the culture that's been built and, how people are being felt or being made to feel like they either belong or they don't. I think a lot of it is the environment you've created. And you know, there are certain environments out there that are like all business, right? Like we're focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's okay. That's not for everybody. But it's a problem when you're bringing in talent who that's not the right place for them, and you're just bringing talent in to bring talent in. And so that's the problem, is you've got to create and own your authentic culture as an organization, understand exactly what it is, and then bring the people in who want to be in that kind of environment. Until you do that, that you're going to run into this problem where over half of the population or the employee population in an organization is passive, right? They're apathetic. They don't even want to be there. They're not motivated to be there.
Yes, who wants to coast, or who wants to employ and pay people to just coast along, which is essentially what
Exactly.
organizations are doing. So let's get tactical, UV, because I want to make sure our listeners hear from you, whether it's from the hiring or the bias standpoint or whatever. What is your advice for these leaders and organizations who truly do want to advance their culture or move their people operations forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think it starts with every individual person within the organization. It does have to start with leadership. Like there has to be that lead by example. But I really believe, like we believe, that every person in the organization can be a leader when it comes from leading with curiosity and empathy and helping to truly grow a very inclusive place of work where anybody, like we said, can be seen, valued, and heard. You know, where they feel like they can belong and they can bring their whole selves to work every day, whether that whole self is, you know, I've got a migraine today, or I'm great and I'm ready to go today. They still want to feel like they belong. And so it's that sort of journey that an organization has to take. And it's a long journey, but it's understanding what are the things, what are the biases, what are the judgments that we've all carried, and how do we start to address those in a very safe and vulnerable way as a team, as an organization. And then what are the steps that we can take to start to just be better a little bit every day? You know, this is a big transformation, but it's something that can happen just with little tweaks in our behavior and our thought every single day.
Yeah, I love that. And I always say, look, culture is an outcome of the daily habits and behavior of
Totally.
all of the people through the organization. So you want to
Yeah.
change your results, you have to look at the habits. You know, I'm still working my way through
Absolutely.
the Michael Jordan, is it The Last
No, The
Dance?
Last Dance. Yeah.
Still making
Yeah.
my way through. Just watched episode 2 of Scottie Pippen last night, and I'm looking. I watched Rodman too. It's just the essence of, guys, we have to sort of have this collective ownership of the decisions we make equate to the outcome that we get. And then if we want that
Yeah.
to change, we have to change the players. We have to change the way we do things, right?
Yep. That's
Yeah, no,
exactly
I
right.
think that's
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 exactly
really
right.
great. And for you, I mean, I listened to you from the understanding your judgments that we've all carried. And I think it's pretty simple. We have to start with conversation, right? People want you
Mm-hmm.
and I to
Yeah.
come in and say, like, here's the 100-step process, but really it starts with having really honest, authentic conversations.
Well, and honestly, like I think a lot of leaders, especially when Black Lives Matter and these conversations about racial inequalities really came to the forefront this year after COVID. And there were a lot of white male leaders who honestly, like they didn't know how to have these conversations with their employees. A lot of us weren't ever really trained to have those conversations, just like we're not trained to interview. We're not trained to have these types of conversations. And so that's okay. Like give yourself a break, give yourself a little grace, but then be willing to do the work to prepare yourself to have those conversations. And it's just about being more curious and leading with empathy for your employees, you know, like understanding that they're angry, right? They're hurt, they don't feel safe, and understanding what that feels like, but then also not layering in your own experiences about it, but being able to step back and go, okay, I understand exactly what you're feeling, and here's how I think I can help as a leader, right? And it's being able to live in that moment, but not hijack what they're feeling with your feelings, but really how can I proactively help as a leader? Because
Yeah.
that's the way things will change.
Right. It's our ability not to do their job, not to solve their problems, but to meet them where they're at and help them get to where they want to go. Well, you've been an
Yeah.
awesome guest today. I really hope that
Oh, no,
people
thank
dig
you.
into your work more. 10 minutes goes by so fast, but
It
there's a
does.
lot of great work that you and the organization are doing. So thank you for all you're doing to advance people and culture.
Oh, thank you, Anna. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.